Hi, welcome to Brewskis with Banks, and today I have my very good friend and incredible drummer, Jai Row Kavi.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very good.
I'm also good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for
Am
being
I
here.
one of the first guests on your new podcast?
You are one of the first, yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm honored to be here.
It's important to have somebody you can trust.
Sure.
You know, especially in the beginning of anything.
This could go either way, Anyway, it's open, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
cool.
That's good.
But it's cool that we're here in this very room because I had my first drum lesson with you here.
Right. So that's what I want to begin with. When
Sure.
did drums enter your life?
Drums entered my life nowhere before I was 16. In fact, in the school band, remember the school band, I tried to play drums, but they allotted instruments based on the size of the person. And believe it or not, I was extremely skinny when I was in school.
Oh.
And I went there thinking like, cool, I'm going to play drums. But he gave me the flute. And I said, fuck this. I'm not going to do this. And I remember like something happened and we laughed and we got kicked out. And then that was it. So I had no introduction to music whatsoever until I was 16 and I went to Allegro. And I believe you used to teach there for a bit. But I think you weren't there. And I had my first lesson with Arthur.
Correct. So Chandresh started a school and Sangeet and I were teaching there.
Yes.
When it first opened with Crosby.
Crosby. Yeah.
A mixture of Nexus and Freedom.
Correct. And Arthur, I had my first drum lesson with Arthur when I was 16. And that was the first time I actually saw a drum set or someone playing a drum set, like in person. And then it so happened that a common friend of ours, Sahil Shah, who's done some of your artwork here, he's like, why don't you just get in touch with Gino? And I was like, sure. And I think I got your number from him. And I actually, believe it or not, remember calling you. And I think you were in a Nexus rehearsal. And you're like, okay, yeah, you can come by tomorrow or whatever. And I came and I hung out. And then I don't think I ever left, man, since then.
Yeah. So, but how do you know Shah?
Because we used to spend a lot of time at Barista.
Oh.
Before JATC,
Right,
maybe. And, JATC was
This
this other
is
spot.
Bandra Barista.
This was, Reclamation Barista, Bandstand Barista, all of the baristas just being like,
So this was when Shah, Jason, myself used to just sit in coffee shops.
Yeah, no, but you weren't there. I was just hanging with them because they were with some other people, all these guys. And I was talking to Shah and he's like, why don't you call Gino? I was like, oh yeah, of course I remember Gino. Because Gino had punished me in school because Gino was a prefect. That was wild. Me and Karan Mohta, you punished us because we were running in the hallway.
Correct.
That's wild.
Yeah, so we were in Bombay Scottish School, Mahim, together.
Yeah, but years apart.
Yeah. And I remember you and I remember little Karthik.
Yeah. He's not so little anymore, but yeah.
But why drums? Like,
I don't know. I guess so. At the time, this friend of mine, Varun Ravindran, Matt, as we called him, he was playing guitar, and I was like, dude, it'd be fun to like start a band or whatever. And I was like, okay, you're already playing guitar, and I always believed like that guitar is like kind of weird, and like I thought my fingers were too fat, honestly, and also the drums looked cool. They really, really looked cool. Like, I mean, look at a drum set, man. How can you not think it, looks cool?
But you still want to play guitar, no?
Yeah, a little bit. Just like distortion vibes.
Okay, so that was your interest.
That was why
learn.
And then you at that age you kind of decide what you want to do. You want to pursue like arts or commerce or those things. But I really didn't know what I want to do until like I discovered what the power of music and drums is, and never looked back, I think.
Right. So then we met. Started coming for lessons.
Yeah, it was me, Hamza, Vinayak,
Yes,
and a bunch of other Sahil Mane. Remember him?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So then we used to, and then I remember I was still like college then.
So this is private lessons here before Garodia. And
Way before Garodia. Garodia happened like after I came back.
Yeah.
Well, just before I left is when you started actually. But yeah, we used to come here, and also I think I remember being your quote unquote. Remember, you didn't have a driver's license.
Yes.
So I had a learner's license,
Yes.
and you had a license, so I could drive you to like Jazz by the Bay, that was wild, man. And then I'd like help you set up and learn so much out of all those
Yeah, we
things.
traveled also. I took you to some cities.
Yeah, Cal. Remember that?
Someplace else.
Yep. Great coffee, by the way.
Thank you. Okay, so you started learning, and then when did you start playing in bands? With the band with Matt happen?
No, that never happened. But I think through... Do you remember that kid Jocelyn? There was this one kid. Anyway, I think somehow someone asked you, and then you were like, get in touch with this guy, and that was my first band.
Was it Groove Lab?
Yeah, but it was called Helix before.
Okay.
With Siddharth Bhatia.
Yeah.
Dude, it's
okay.
wild.
Yes.
Again,
yes,
it's
okay.
wild that this other guy from Scottish, Siddharth Bhatia, he was, I didn't even know he was in the band, and he walked in and I was like, oh cool, we were in the same school and whatnot. And then that was it. And then I also had the same place that I was in up until earlier this year in Chuim.
Yes.
And it used to be an office. It wasn't soundproofed at all. And I had drums, and I guess bands were looking for people that would, have a place to play. It was a big bonus if you were a drummer and you had a place to play. I guess that's a universal thing. But I'd just join as many bands as I could.
Right.
So there was, different...
right. So Helix, which became Groove Lab.
Yeah. And at the same time, Karthik, my friend Karthik, he had a friend Mayur that was studying with Ravi Iyer. And Vayu, Ravi Iyer's band at the time, was looking for a drummer.
Yeah.
And they came and they're like, okay, cool. I think they had some sort of an audition, if I remember correctly. And then like, okay, here's 30 songs, cover songs that we do. Like, you remember what kind of songs they were. Like, everything, like all kinds of classic rock. And that was actually cool. So yeah, it was Groove Lab, Vayu, then also Medusa.
Medusa was at that?
Yes, later as well. And then the big one, then PDV happened. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I had no real introduction to metal before that. And like the many times in life when I'm at a crossroads, I remember calling you and I was like, dude, what should I do? He's like, you were like, just go for it, man. Like, just do it. I was like, I'm kind of nervous. I've never played like metal before or whatever.
But you were listening to metal?
But I never played it before. Like, and that was like fast,
So it was more
stuff.
like you were into, I remember Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah, Metallica.
Deftones, Metallica.
Limp Bizkit, huge.
Bizkit.
And then you introduced me in Incubus.
Yeah.
So
it was like new metal, hard rock, more than heavy metal.
And then the world of fusion and jazz fusion and that side of music that I didn't really know of at all until I came here, of course. And, the concept of playing improvised music, I didn't even know what that was.
Right.
I don't think I still know what that is, but yeah.
No. And so, where were you playing? Like, where were these gigs happening with these bands?
There was, the Vayu gigs were at Jazz by the Bay.
That was a regular gig.
That was maybe once or twice a month kind of gig. And I was way too loud for that venue. Again, this is
early days.
The other gigs used to happen at Raz, maybe. And then college competitions were kind of big back then, man. They were pretty big. So you literally like Battle of the Bands kind of thing. And so it could be anywhere. It could be in Bombay, it could be in Pune, Delhi, Bangalore, wherever.
So this was with Groove Lab and Medusa mainly?
Yes, if I remember. Yeah. Because PDV was already kind of established by then.
Yeah.
And...
Who's playing drums at PDV before you?
Neeraj. Lefty Neeraj.
Yeah.
He was a cool drummer, man. Neeraj and then Viru for a bit. Then I joined. And then I split, went to the States, and then Viru joined again. Yeah, something like that, if I remember correctly. It was a long time ago. 20 years ago, man. More than
20 years.
Well, I came here for the first time in 2002.
Yeah.
So that's when I started playing,
So PDV would have happened around 2004?
4.
Yeah.
It all happened so quickly.
Yeah.
Like it was like this, go to
Correct.
and they were all like different vibes, man. Vayu's like playing like Deep Purple and Rainbow and
Pink Floyd.
And then PDV's like talking about like, killing goats and whatnot. Not really, but you know what I mean. It was very interesting that like challenge. And then around the same time, I met Kuto because you were doing a gig with Warren, with Joe.
Ah, right.
At Jazz, by the way, one of the gigs that I used to come with you for. And I asked him, I was like, hey, do you think your drummer needs like a drum tech? And then he laughed. He's like, yeah, sure, give him a call. And then I called him, and then they had a show at Cart Road for the Celebrate Bandra thing. and they called me to like hire my kit out at the time.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
The Black Premier.
Yep, that was my first kit.
Does it still exist with Warren?
Yep, it still does. He still rents it out. My first drum set was a Black Premier Cabria that I bought from Bhargava's, which, you know what, my mom recently found the bill, 30,000 rupees.
Wow.
That's what it cost, which was a lot of money for us back then.
Okay, we'll come to drums later.
Yeah,
we'll can nerd out on drums later. Let's get the bands and all that first. Okay, so then the Zero connection happened.
Yeah, then I met those guys, and they were, huge, right? If you knew those guys. And I'd hang out with them. I became, friends with Sid and Warren and all these guys. And I guess through them at some point, Kuto wanted to start a band, and then he said, hey, I can finally sing, because I don't really like playing drums. He always wanted to be a singer. And we started Helga's Fun Castle, which was again a very fun band of like funk meets reggae vibes.
Right.
Pop also.
But it was fun music, because I played a little bit after you left.
Yeah. You guys did an album together when I was gone and whatnot.
But fun music.
Fun music, yeah. Definitely. And again, those days, this is like the time that's, where everyone was traveling, doing gigs out of the city by train.
Right.
Flights weren't a thing then, like cheap flights at least. So it was good times, man, because everyone was traveling, and then you'd go to these competitions, make friends with bands from other cities, like GIR in Delhi. I met like the guys from Them Clones. And I don't know, it was just fun. Very different time, definitely.
So connecting like with the guys in different cities who are into the same kind of music.
Yeah, definitely. There was this band called Medicis. Do you remember this band?
No.
They were basically 4 French Indian. Well, they were French, but they were from Auroville. And they were heavily influenced by Deftones. They sounded incredibly good.
I remember you telling me, because I remember this French band from Auroville, but I forgot the name.
And Medicis, Medici, as someone. Anyway, but they were incredible, and I remember like there was a certain level, man, of musicianship, of like a great sounding band. It was quite cool, and which kind of pushes you to be better at your thing. In many ways. Medicis. They were really good. They were out of Auroville.
Right.
Yep.
So Helga's was happening. But then I remember also during that time, especially during all these like Independence Rock and all these big rock festivals, you played with Zero, you played with Pentagram, you played with Acquired Funk Syndrome, PDV. These were like all the top rock metal bands in the country.
Yeah, these were like, I remember going to the last iRock that happened at Rang Bhavan. I think you were there with me.
Yeah.
And Pentagram played, PDV played, and that was the first time I saw Indian bands properly. I was blown away, and then got to, I'm hanging out with these people, and then, like subbing for people and whatnot. So it was really cool, man. It's like interesting.
So, but how was it to learn all that material, like different bands, like an iconic songs, like they have a crowd following, and you're getting to play with all of these bands?
Yeah, I never really thought about like it. It's you just had to get it done, where you had to learn the parts to make it sound as authentic as whoever wrote them or whatever. So it was fun, but at the same time, I never really overthought it in a way where
and it was also like the music you kind of liked playing, the
very
heavy,
much.
the hard rock kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. It was very, very interesting to do that stuff as well. And also like when you're 18, 19, you're hungry, man. You're hungry for...
Oh, so you're still not 21 by this point?
No. Because I left when I was 19, when I went to study.
Oh.
So literally in those 3 years, there's so much happened in my life. So much happened. And like being in the studio for the first time with PDV at Yashraj with Shantanu. Sorry, not Yashraj, Empire. My bad.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I got into a studio, and Shantanu, he's an intimidating guy, and I love him. I know him now, and I was like, man, what's happening? Like you go there and you go and listen to what you've recorded on those. I've never seen speakers that big in my life. And also
Dyna Audios, huge Dyna Audios.
They were like 4 feet, big or whatever. And also to play to a click. And that tracking room was the size of a basketball court.
Yeah.
It was humongous.
It was before they made it into half. It was like the full
Exactly.
thing,
Yeah. So that was very interesting. I remember like borrowing gear from you, and
Oh yeah.
you had that small pearl free floater, man. And
Oh,
then-
the Piccolo.
yeah,
I
14.
still have it. 13 by 3.
No. This was a 14.
Oh, the black one.
That's what I recorded
Yeah.
PDV's Independence on, by the way.
I can't find that one.
I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know where
you
it
have
is.
so much gear that we'll get to that.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
Mm.
But yeah, but yeah, my days would basically be like, I think I'd come here in the morning or whenever in the afternoon we'd play. I'd just hang out. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Whatever you had going on, I would just come and be a fly on the wall, and then I'd go and rehearse with all these bands. So I was
Correct.
playing like a good like 5-6 hours a day, which
During
at the time,
these rehearsals,
yeah,
did P-Man used to wear a helmet?
yeah, because it was too loud. He has done that once or twice, I remember.
Because I was, I think, there for one of your rehearsals, and
Yeah.
Rohit was wearing a
Yeah.
helmet.
P-Man was the coolest guy, man, really. I mean, he still is. I haven't seen him in a while, though. I did meet him recently. He's playing with this, he's playing with Raftar, this rapper.
Yeah.
He's playing
Josh
bass.
Vaz is playing.
Yeah,
drums.
I met both of them at this gig that we were doing. P-Man was such a cool influence on me and musically as well, I would say, because he was just, here, listen to this, here, listen to that. And these are the days of magazines.
Yeah.
Like, you used to give me Drum and Modern Drummer, and then P-Man had all these cool, like, Kerrang and all
Right.
these, like, different metal and rock magazines that we'd all get from Raddiwalas and whatnot back in the day. But he was a great, like, guy to hang with for sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a great time in life because all I was doing was playing drums. You didn't worry about a paycheck ever. That young, you have almost no expenses.
Yeah, the thing is, there was no budgets also in these gigs and things.
No. And whatever the band made would go into like a band fund to record the album or whatever, So it was you wouldn't even, it wasn't even a thought. Like, I mean, yeah, it was interesting though. I mean, I did get paid for the Vayu gigs and whatnot.
Yeah.
Because that was like, a big club show at the time. But the other Raz gigs and all, we'd get biryani with like neck pieces and and what was the other thing? Club sandwich.
Club sandwich.
Yeah, and the toast was like this hard. Remember the toast was like incredibly hard. Oh, what a place Raz was, man.
It was a vibe, huh?
Man, it was insane. Anybody that went to Raz around that time, the 90s, 2000s would tell you that what a place.
Yeah.
There were so many things happening there. It was insane.
And the audience was great. Everyone was very into the music.
Yeah,
huh?
they were also like ruthless. Like if they didn't like a band, they'd let you know that they didn't like
it was one of the few places where metal gigs were happening regularly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like throughout the week,
Right.
Tuesday, Wednesday night, that place was so bizarre. If you go back to think about it, you enter. Firstly, it's a hotel. There's all kinds of shady shit happening in the hotel. You know it. You absolutely know it. But whatever. I mean, what are you gonna do? We're not cops. Speaking of cops, so then you'd enter. Also, the first thing that would hit you was the smell of like phenyl, like cleaning liquid.
Yeah.
And then you'd go to the venue. You'd have all these like scary dudes, like
And it was a dark place.
dark with blue lights.
Yeah.
And everyone's in black t-shirts, so that's like standard uniform.
Pool tables upstairs.
Pool tables upstairs. So you got the metal kids down. You got the uncles drinking beer and playing pool up. The band's playing there. And there was a lawn outside where there were weddings simultaneously.
Yes.
All these things are happening at the same time. It's insane.
Correct.
It's absolutely insane. So you see these aunties like walking, and then suddenly you see these guys like who's just got beaten up in the mosh pit, like being dragged out. Man,
I remember this.
you can't even. It's
I
too
forgot
good.
about the wedding.
It's too good, man. You see auntie like very, wearing a sari and like walking out of the wedding reception, and this guy's just been bashed in the mosh pit, and he's like leaving like that, and there's like a hooker there, she's waiting for whatever, and what a trip, man.
I forgot about that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And
at the same time, we're loading. I'm loading my double bass pedal like into the car, trying to, it's crazy, man. Throughout the year,
completely forgot.
throughout the year, man.
That's
too
damn good. Yeah. Iconic place.
Very much. Where else were there gigs then? There would be like one-off gigs at places,
But not regular. Like jazz and...
Jazz and Raz
Raz,
were
exactly.
only continuous clubs. Jazz, of course, being the little poshier kind of thing.
So all the gigs were coming with connections with people and then starting something.
Very organically, yeah.
So
And then also we had GigPad. Remember GigPad?
Oh yeah.
The forums, which, I'd like, hey, I'm a drummer, I'm looking for a band. I think I might have posted there
Oh yeah.
a couple of times, yeah. And I did meet some people but nothing really worked out.
The guys who used to run it, we used to always be there at gigs.
Yeah. Sandeep Mittal and Vijay Nair at the time was part of Gigpad, I think. Yeah, and P-Man. And man, the trolling was wild though. It was too good. Some brutal shit, man. And again, you had people from Bombay, people from Bangalore, people from Delhi, Pune, Chennai. And everyone had their own scene, and then, it was hilarious. Like, hey man, this guy talks shit. I'm gonna see you at Strawberry Fields in Bangalore, and like, it's hilarious, man. And you didn't know who someone was because everyone had like different names.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
So then, I'm guessing when you did with the gig with Pentagram, that led to the Shire and Funk.
Yeah,
as in the connection with Randolph.
Pentagram. I think Shiraz was. I think he's a DOP, or that's his main gig, and at long time ago, and I think Randolph was kind enough to be like, do you want to sub for him? I was like, yeah, sure. And I remember rehearsing with them and whatnot, and he was always really kind to me, Yeah. In fact, my first ever corporate gig in life was with Randolph.
No
ever
way.
Yeah, I don't think I told you this, but it was me, Randolph, Anand Subaya, which was funk before Monica came to India at the time, I think. So he had this project called Funk, FUNC Funk, and we had a corporate gig in one of the hotels by the airport, and it was like a fashion show thing. And I'd come to your corporate, so
you got the vibe.
Yeah, you knew what the vibe was. You knew there'd be like free food, which at the time was cool, and you get a paycheck. So cool. Yeah.
Wow, what a hang with Anand and Randolph, no?
Too good, man. Too good. I've been lucky to hang out with fun people. I think everyone's got like a different vibe they bring to the table, and it's interesting.
So then that led to Shire and Funk.
Yeah, that was much later. Much later. Yeah.
And then also Tough on Tobacco.
Yeah, also later.
Which was an offshoot of kind of Helga's.
Yeah. But yeah, after I did that whole thing, and then it was a time where I said I might as well go study drums, and because you were showing me stuff here, so much stuff over the years, and over those I think 3 years, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to MI, and then I went there 2006 to 7.
Yeah.
And when I came back is when I again started playing with a bunch of bands and artists. But yeah.
So when that happened, you came back. Then that's when I think Shire and Tough and Tobacco picked up.
Yeah, around 2009-10 around then. Yeah. And that's when I also met Uday, because he wanted to do that Whirling Kalapas.
So actually before Indus Creed, Whirling Kalapas.
Yeah. So he's like, obviously we all know who Indus Creed were and Rock Machine were, and in fact they did that one reunion gig. Remember when they One Tree Festival or something they had?
Right.
So they came back, and
then Jayesh came down. I remember.
So it was like Indus Creed comes back or whatever for that one show. They actually rented my kit again this was my side hustle, dude. I used to rent my kit out to anyone who wanted it, put it on top of a taxi, no cases, nothing, and just cardboard box, premier cardboard box. So I met them then, but I mean they don't remember obviously, but somebody recommended me to Benny, and he's like, we have this, I wanted to start this band with Mahesh where we kind of do slightly like acoustic kind of things. And then he tells this to people, which is very true. The first thing I told him was like, hey man, I don't play like djembe and shit. Like he loves people telling the story. Loves telling people the story.
Yeah.
Loves people telling the story. What is in this coffee, man?
Loves people.
Loves people. So he started that, and then it was basically we do songs that he wrote and also acoustic versions of Rock Machine songs, and I think even he was like, boss, now it's time to get the distortion back in.
Right.
Let's budge out a little bit. And so he's like, do you want to? I was like, yeah, of course.
Mahesh was playing in Whirling Kalapas?
Yeah, Mahesh, and then Zubin came for maybe like a one-off gig, and even he kind of got that kida of like,
right,
let's kind of do this again. So then that's when that happened.
And you and Rushad were the new rhythm section.
Yeah. That first gig was insane, man. It was, at Hard Rock. Right. Some Harley Rock Riders gig or something like that. And
but that album, Evolve, is still one of the most amazing rock albums to come out.
It was fun. It was fun writing that stuff. And
it brought the influence, I think, of like modern metal and hard rock music from you and Rushad.
Yeah, I think that's what was cool, was that they had their influences, and then here we are like 20 years younger with entirely different influences and tastes in music, and somehow it worked. And
Yeah, and I think actually more than anything, a rhythm section like bass and drums can really change a band's vibe and sound.
Absolutely, it's vital to to the sound, to the way it feels, and that album, like even writing those songs was actually like, for me personally, like I wanted to write like cool shit where it's fun to play live, even if it's like simple, but there's something that's interesting for me. I've always approached playing drums like that, with bands.
We also got to sub for you on that.
Yeah,
one. So I got to experience that, like your stuff that you did, and also the old stuff, which was a lot of fun to play.
Yeah,
so shout out to Mark Menezes, Bobby Dugal, and Adrian Fernandez, who played with Indus before.
Yep. They did some cool stuff, and if you think about it, like they also went to LA in the 80s to record their album or whatever. Well, pretty cool, man. So it was big. Like I got the call for that gig. I was like, wow, sure, I'd join. Yeah, of course.
And the recording happened?
We did it at Ranjit Studio.
There we go.
In Nirvana at the time. Insane experience, because we were there. I love like when you're recording an album and your gear's there and you go back and it's the same, and then that you go back the next day. I love that feeling, man. So we did a lot of that. I think we were there for about the songs were rehearsed, and then we weren't writing in the studio. We'd rehearse everything in the rehearsal room, and then they did drums first. So it was like a good solid 3-4 days of like 6-7 songs. And they're all very particular about, as they should be, about how tight the music, how tight the take is and whatnot. So it was a great experience though. And then I think that's when I also met Ranjit for the first time, maybe.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I had met him very briefly in passing,
but
maybe.
in interaction. Like
Yeah. And then his drums were there, and it was cool, man.
You played the Pearl? You played the Pearl Masters?
I played the Pearl Masters, yeah. Pearl Masters, and it was Zildjian at the time, because Meinl wasn't around, sadly.
We'll get to gear.
We will get to gear. We'll get to gear.
So then, after Indus is when things happened with like Pangea and Blackstratblues started to happen.
So I think Blackstrat also happened around 2010, because Sid and Chauhan, they had a trio when it was just Blackstrat. And in fact, the first Blackstrat gig, I think I played drums, where Warren was in New Zealand at the time, and then Mithibai College got him down to play, and then it was me, Chauhan, Taj, Warren, and some people singing, I can't remember. And then he went, and then I think he came back, and initially it was the trio, and I guess he just wanted to mix things up, and he got me and Adi, who's one of my favorite bass players I've ever played with. We literally went to his house. He had a tiny kit, a kick snare, hat set up, and we wrote this album. What was the name of the album, man? I can't even remember.
Really?
Yeah, we wrote it there, and the one with Folkish and Universe Has a Strange Sense of Humor, that one. And we wrote it there, and then we recorded drums at Aslam Studio, and that's when, around that time is when the N87 scene was picking up as well, so we did a lot of those gigs. And also I think Karsh had just been introduced to the guys here, and he was over here doing a bunch of shows. So it was the same bunch of people like me, Warren, Adi.
Yeah. So the same
Bev.
Kind of Blackstrat thing with playing with Karsh
Yeah.
also. Okay.
Blackstrat was almost like a band for hire in many ways, as a band.
Right.
I mean, we did a bunch of gigs with Vishal for like a tribute to Nusrat thing for N87. And but yeah, around then is when Blackstrat started for me.
And Blackstrat's still happening?
I just recorded some. He's moved back to New Zealand now, and he comes down a couple of times a year, and we do a bunch of shows as much as we can cram then. But he's still writing there. So even during COVID, he was gone, and I actually recorded by myself, believe it or not.
That's right.
That's shout out to Kuber for helping me set up that thing at home. But yeah, we're still around, and we still play every now and then.
Right.
Yeah.
And Pangea.
Ooh, great one, man. That was actually one of the bands that I hit them up saying, dude, this is some cool shit. I want to fucking be a part of it. And I knew well, I knew Akshay was the only guy I knew, the guitar player, Akshay Rajpurohit, because he was in Scribe and we had played a bunch of shows with Scribe and, at some point. And I didn't know the other guys, Kubair and Shadab. And it was just the three of them. They literally wrote this album in their space or whatever. And I heard it and I was like, this is some hip shit, man. I got to be a part of it. And that first album had like programmed drums and I actually told Rushad, I was like, dude, check this band out. We should like fuck around and see what happens. And we had our first rehearsal. See, other thing, man, I've seen the amount of rehearsal spaces I've seen, dude, some of them are straight out of a horror movies. This one was also like somewhere near Chembur, and like most of them are in industrial areas.
Right.
So there's like trucks and like goods being moved, and then you're like moving your cymbals through all of this. But it was fun, and in the first rehearsal, I still remember it was great fun, and I knew immediately like this is going to be great. And playing to a click with 3 guitar players and like all these things, I think really helped me in many ways where you don't really think about it at the time. A lot of the times like only the drummers hearing the click. Like in Pangea, it was only me with the click. So and none of them would have in-ears at the time, maybe, if I remember correctly. But you learn things from, and it was just fun. It was straight fun because it was super hard hitting and something I hadn't done in a long time actually, because I was playing with Blackstrat and Indus, and those are like loud bands, but not like metal,
right?
Right. So it was good. It was good.
Right. So all these experiences really add to your skill set development, I think. No. So it's like you're ready for many things. Then whatever comes to you.
Yeah, exactly. Like this click thing.
Yeah.
It came in very handy where.
Like now in commercial music that you're working in, it's all click based.
Absolutely, yeah. Now everyone's on in-ears all the time, but there was a long period of time where people were like, we don't want in-ears, and I was like, I'd wear headphones. I was like, sure, it'll help me if anything. But there's always that push and pull because not everyone's on click, so you have to bring them back.
Yeah.
Right? Especially when you're playing like metal and everyone's like really feeling it, and I don't know what that is, but
from this angle, yeah.
Hey, I meant like riffing.
Yeah. But that riffing up here.
Yeah, there's the proggy jazz dudes have the guitar. That's how you can tell.
With glasses.
You know how you can tell how a drummer is from their setup.
Mm-hmm.
Even the guitar player, guitar's high. Bro's gonna play like mad chords and those with like that little clean vibe, and suddenly if it's super low, like the bro's into that bouncing vibes and all.
I look at it like Alan Holzer to Fieldy.
Exactly, I was just thinking about Fieldy.
There you go.
I didn't think about Holdsworth, but I was like, yeah.
I was trying to think of complex chords. That's what Holdsworth.
Yeah. Blah, 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 blah. That
Exactly. Those chords. Blah, 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 blah.
Man.
So the click thing. Okay, so now these were basically all kind of your independent, let's call them independent, because it is not related to Bollywood at all.
No.
All these bands
Not
and the
at
music
all.
you're playing.
No.
But you have worked a lot in Bollywood
Yes.
over the last few years.
Yes.
And I think before playing live, you were doing a lot of sessions.
Yeah. I think word got around that this guy's like a rock drummer types, which is great. Sure, I'll take that, man.
But I think the important thing for getting called for sessions, I think 2 factors is you can play to a click, and 2 is your sound.
Yeah, sound is very important that I still see a lot of people overlook, like, whether it's how you tune or how you play, it's like an individual sound that you need to achieve, I guess. It's kind of hard thing to explain to someone. Like someone asks you, how do you sound the way you sound? It's like almost like a personality trait in many ways.
Right.
But yeah, like you were saying, I think I did do a lot of session work, like for SEL and for Vishal and Shekhar and Preetham, and I guess over the years people knew of me, and I never really put myself out there. Like I'm a pretty shy guy, you know me. I am kind of shy unless you know me. I'd kind of keep to myself.
Okay.
And,
Fair enough.
I guess word got around that this guy's available. He's got decent sounding drums and he can play in time and he's tasty, I'd like to think, which is,
Playing the right things.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant. And then slowly the Bollywood switch happened actually when 2014, when Amit Trivedi was looking for a band and he got in touch with some of the guys at OML, and then they recommended again Blackstrat as the whole band. So the whole band became Amit Trivedi's band for a bit, Well, Warren until he left.
And you were playing N87 with Amit Trivedi at the time?
First gig I had with him was N87. Which is kind of ironic because N87 was an indie gig, but they were doing their first Bolly thing.
With indie musicians.
Yeah. And around the same time, actually, the guys that... Remember the Sky Harbor dudes, Keshav and Kena, were like... They were looking for a drummer, and I had just recovered from my back thing, dude. So I was like, I can't do this, like...
The tour would have been heavy.
Yeah, it would have been too heavy for me. But I wish I had done that gig. I really like that band as well.
Great music.
But then, this thing happened simultaneously where I started playing with Amit Trivedi. But we were also doing other gigs on the side, Blackstrat gigs. And also around that period is when the indie stuff slowly started going.
Festivals and venues were changing, I think. Yeah.
Venues weren't booking as many bands as they were before, for sure.
So, Amit happened. Yeah. And Amit's still happening with some different cats in the band.
Yeah. We did a bunch of recording stuff for him as well over the years, and all kinds of shows, festivals, corporate gigs, weddings, And
Sunidhi's also happened.
Yes, Sunidhi, the Sunidhi Chauhan gig happened, I think, around 2018, where they had asked me to join, and I was like, okay, sure. And because I didn't know if like the dates would, work out. And that's a great gig, man, honestly. Like, she's a fantastic person to work with. She knows she's got like some of the strongest ears from anyone that I've genuinely, like, she hears things really quickly, a very sharp sense of musicality. She knows what she wants, and a great person to work with. Most importantly, for me, I think that's the most important thing. Like, whoever I work with, I just need to get along with them, and it's easy. There's no like stress and like that kind of vibe.
And for a singer, she has good time, huh?
Excellent time. Insane time. Like, genuinely, like, her sense of space between notes is very solid.
Yeah. Not bashing singers, but it helps to have good time.
Definitely. Yeah.
Drummers appreciate that.
Yes, very much.
Public service announcement.
PSA.
So now, okay, let's get nerdy now.
Let's get nerdy.
So I was thinking the other day.
Okay.
Yep.
Drums. So you started with a Premier Cabrio.
Yeah.
Now, I remember you went to a Tama Swing Star.
Yeah.
Both black drum kits.
Both black. It was a Premier Cabria. Well, at the time, there weren't many options. There was either a Gladnick, of course. There was a Magnum drums.
Right.
There was a high-end Premier, which was a British Premier, which was very expensive. There was Mapex, which was also, kind of expensive. And this was the best kit I could afford at the time.
Price point and the config.
My mum bought it for me because I got good marks in my 10th. Yay, mom. Thank you, mom. So went from that to Tama Swing Star, which is what you also had for the longest time.
So did I have mine before yours?
Yeah, you got the Tama way before me, the blue Tama.
So that's from Bhargava's music.
Yeah, both were from. My Premier was from Bhargava. The Tama, yours was from Bhargava's also.
Yeah. So I had a Gladnick and the Tama at the time.
Correct. The white one was here, and man, and you had the best pearl pedal in the world. What happened to that pedal? Anyway,
it's somewhere.
It was that pearl pedal. It was a single chain. I remember it had lines on the footboard for like grip. It was from the late 90s, 2000s.
Could be late 90s pedal. Yeah.
It was the smoothest. The beater was squarish a little bit, worn out because like we played the shit out of it. And then you also had DW 5000s.
My dad bought me from the States. Yeah,
those were cool, man.
Yeah, what was like?
Again, the first time I saw double pedal was in this room. I was like, what? Oh, 2 feet? Can you use 2 feet also? Oh my god, this is a revelation.
And then you want to play Metallica 1.
We tried. Remember, we set up 2 kits here.
Yeah. We set up the Gladnick and the Tama.
And my Premier we brought here. Oh. No, we did Premier and Tama.
Oh,
we did two bass drums. And I found those photos recently, but it's wild. Octobans you had.
Right, Gladnick Octoban.
You had the Zildjian flat ride.
Siva gave me
Yep.
the
the Oriental China.
Edge China.
Edge also. So we did 2 Chinas.
Right.
Oriental and Edge, both.
Scimitar hi-hats.
Scimitar hi-hats. What else? I can't remember. And I had some Sabians at the time.
Right.
B8. So
You were Sabian guy. Huh,
I'll tell you how that happened. Basically, I was in the States visiting an aunt before I got my drums, and I remember in one of the magazines you probably gave me, I saw an ad for samash.com, which was, this is, internet's like still coming up types. That's how old I am. But I saw
old man voice.
Yeah. No, I can do many old man voices. Depends.
Okay.
Let's not deviate from what we're talking about.
But when I was young,
With his siblings.
Samish.com, I got me some pedals.
Anyway, before I had drums, I remember there was a deal for the single chain Tama pedals. I got those. I wanted a Zildjian crash ride because it make most sense. You can get one cymbal, might as well make it a ride and a crash.
Yes.
And because I was heavily into like John Otto and he played Zildjian then. But they didn't have the one I wanted in stock, and the guy was like, I remember calling the guy with my aunt's phone and whatnot, and he's like, why don't you try Sabian B8 Pro? I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then I'm a pretty loyal guy, and then I stuck with Sabian.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember like slowly adding to that, got a hand hammered crash once for my birthday, 18-inch. Thanks mom again.
And it worked out. I mean, the Sabian thing was also because Chad Smith was playing Sabian.
Yeah, and Jose. I was a big
Pastelas,
Incubus nerd. And
so that was there.
Yeah. So I was playing Sabian Sabian and then Tama for the longest time. But then I remember like whenever I had like recordings, I'd always like come to you and be like, man, can I borrow like a nice crash? And you'd give me like an A custom or something at the time. In fact, just when I started playing, I was playing on like pillows and chairs at home, and you gave me like a broken splash, and that was my cymbal.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I used to put it into the stick because no cymbal stand or whatever. But I was like, that's my kit at home. That was for like the longest time before I got.
Wow.
But the broken splash.
We used to break splashes those days.
Yeah.
We used to not play, we used to hit things.
Correct.
Yeah.
I don't really break cymbals anymore.
No.
Thank God.
Yes.
This iced coffee is really good.
Yeah. It's a cold brew.
Is it?
Ski.
Oh, okay.
So then, okay, right. So you had the Tama and the Sabian thing happening, and you were staying loyal to Sabian at the time. You were buying cymbals.
I was buying cymbals. This was way before any endorsement happened or anything of that sort.
So then, how did the endorsement happen with drums and cymbals?
So with drums, I'll tell you. I went to the States. I think I left my kit here at Garodia. The Tama, when I went, I obviously didn't take those drums with me.
I don't think
Or
so.
with Vinny or something.
Could be.
Maybe. And then I came back and Furtado's, people at Furtado's, Joe and Anthony approached me saying, what do you think of Pearl drums? And I was like, I mean, of course I know about Pearl drums, who doesn't? But I never really played them properly. And they sent me a kit to check out. Or was it like at the Palm Expo or something? I can't remember.
Could be Palm because those
I don't
days
think
they were
sent me-
setting up stuff at Palm.
Yeah.
You know when instruments were at Palm?
Yep.
Those days? Yeah.
Yeah, you remember the time when instruments were at the PAM Expo?
No. They didn't send me. They sent me a Pearl Vision while I waited for the Masters. Yeah. So it was me and Joshua Vaz. We went, had a meeting with them. They're like, we'd love to have you on board for Pearl. That was 2008.
Right.
Yep. So long time ago. And you remember the time I called you when I first played a reference?
Yes.
That story is wild, man. There was some guy in Pune who placed this massive order for this kit, and he got everything. If I remember correctly, if this is accurate, but he had everything. This is true. He had everything from an 8 to a 18 tom, 3 bass drums, all different sizes. He basically went all out, and something happened where I don't think it worked out for him, and he sold this kit back to Furtado's eventually, and this very kit is the same.
It is the white kit
That's the one,
now
dude.
kind of off-white now?
That's the one. Everyone from from Carnivals played that, to Dennis, to anyone that's a Pearl artist that's visited India, and Furtado's on the backline has played that kit. Anyway, so I played that for the first time, and the difference was worlds apart between a Masters Maple and a Reference, because a Reference had mixed shells and just the weight of that snare, and it was insane. I remember calling, I was like, dude, you have to check this out. And I had never played Reference before. I don't think you had played Reference before as well.
No.
Now they're like everywhere, man.
Those days, no?
Yep.
And then you called, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll try this out. I called Furtado's. They sent it to Blue Frog for a gig with Dhruv and Sheldon.
Yeah.
And I remember asking them for feedback, and I think Jovian or Camille, one of them were doing the sound.
Yes,
and they were like, this is mind blowing.
Yeah, it is.
And then I switched.
Yep.
So you called. That was the.
Hey. Yeah. I just called to say play Pearl drums. But I also then eventually I was like, I have to get a Reference, man. I had that Masters from 2008 to about 2013 is when I got the white Reference, which I still have. Which
I remember we did a big palm show when you and Didi got
we got at the same time, I think.
White and red. And I had my green Reference, and then we did a big gig with Naladri, Dad, Dhruv, Sheldon.
Yep, I remember that. That was pretty cool. I think that was the last big palm I've played.
Really? That's long ago.
I don't know. Maybe I played 1, 2. I did play with Blackstrat.
I'm sure.
But that was a good one. I remember that.
Yeah,
that was a good one.
Yeah, the MI thing was really fun those days at Palm.
Yeah,
should bring it back.
They really should. Are you listening, Mr. Palm?
Yeah, that one guy.
Mr. Palmaker? This is what happens. So what happens when you give me coffee.
So the Pearl endorsement happened.
Yeah, the Pearl endorsement happened. Also simultaneously, around 2010 is when 10, 11, something like that, is when Furtado's again approached me saying, would you like to play Zildjian Cymbals? And I was like, sure. I like Zildjian Cymbals at the time, and I did play them for a good 4 years. I was with Zildjian, but then we discovered Meinl.
We did.
It was like
the sound.
Yeah, man, it was really insane.
Yeah,
without sounding corny and cheesy, it was literally like a whole other world. You know, it's weird. Like, see, now we all know. You and I have been talking about gear for years, but you know, when you are with a company, like you're always, focused on that company in some way. And of course, remember watching the old Marco Miniman videos and the Thomas Lang videos. So we were aware of what Meinl was, but we hadn't played it because we hadn't seen it or heard it ourselves.
Yeah. So we can talk about that, like when Ranjit Baro.
Dude, we should tell that story.
We used to hang at Nirvana.
Yeah, we used to
for
go
sheds.
and Nirvana.
And have a lot of food and beverage. Post-shed.
Beverage was similar to this coffee.
Yeah, Brewskis.
Exactly the same. Yeah,
same Brewskis. And we used to play and then eat dinner and then head out.
Head home.
I remember we played and RB had all the cymbals up.
Yeah.
And
no. It was when we walked into the room and
the
kit was.
Yeah.
He had the drums there, but they were covered by like a sheet.
And he was playing Sabian at the time.
Yeah, he was playing Sabian at the time. And he's like, I've got a surprise for you. And I was like, okay, what? Then you go and
it's covered.
I love the way he set it up, dude. He covered it.
Yeah,
it was
so we were like, okay, cool, it's covered.
Yeah. He covered it and then
pulls the sheet off.
I was like, whoa, Meinl, interesting. And that one crash, man. You remember? I was y'all were shedding. I didn't care about what was happening. I was just with my hand just tapping the.
You looked so special in the corner of that drum kit. Hitting that
I'm a special kind of guy. Yeah. You knew this about me when you met me many, many years ago.
But suddenly we stopped playing and we're just looking at you hit that crash.
Yeah, that was wild, man. The 20-inch extra dry, hand-hammered, traditional crash.
Yeah, so we all had something that attracted. Like I remember the extra dry medium ride.
Yeah.
When I played it, I was like, oh, I've not experienced this.
We had no idea of what extra dry or vintage, like that world was non-existent to us, right?
Yeah.
And then you played that stuff and it was insane, man.
Right.
And the one thing that I loved about them is a lot of companies would like make cool shit, but it would just be a prototype just for that artist. Like they just made everything for every series from a 6 to a 22.
That's true.
Right?
And Chinas and splashes.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, everything. Like when I was with Zildjian, I remember I wanted like some 22-inch crash options, and there really wasn't anything apart from the Crash of Doom.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard to get, you know. I'm sure, I don't know, maybe that's changed now, but I just love the way they sound, man. They just sounded different.
Yeah.
They felt different. Like,
And that's the thing with gear. Sometimes you play what you know, and it's fine.
Yeah.
But then you hear something that resonates with you,
what
and
is
you're
that?
like, okay, this is different. And then when you really bring it into your playing, you kind of elevate your playing because you're hearing it a certain way.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
it's-
like all these effect cymbals, for example, like you're hearing entirely new different stack sounds, you know. And
I think the best stacks and the best dry cymbals come from mine.
absolutely,
for sure.
there's no question. I mean, you can A/B it for yourself on YouTube, and you'd hear, like, I don't know, with the stacks, it's like the air you hear between the stacks that I find you don't hear.
That's the thing. I think it's that sustain.
Yeah,
That
it's
is
the
key.
The perfect length and the perfect
Right.
length of the sustain is
Yeah.
what I meant. Yeah.
Which gives you the best sound.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's
And they're not harsh, man. Like you talk to any engineer, they don't know. Like engineers don't know. You know, they've probably never heard of, you know, it's this specific drum gear or whatever. They're like, hey man, that sounds cool. Like, what is that? That's a crash. We're like, yeah, that's a 20-inch crash. Oh, that sounds really good. I didn't have to EQ it much. That's something I found in when I first moved over and I'd do sessions and I'd play loud, and you know, there was nothing shrill about anything.
That's the thing. I feel that Meinl really translate great on microphones.
Yep.
And there's not any weird extra harmonics or something that you have to kind of cut off in EQ.
Right.
They just straight up like high fidelity cymbals for close miking.
True.
So in a studio live, it just translates, and it's less work for the engineer because you get a very natural, good sound.
Yeah. And there's something for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Whether the extra dry thing is your thing, or the
pure alloy.
pure alloy
It's killing
custom.
it.
If you like just traditional sounding cymbals, check out the traditional line. You know, jazz,
Very much.
heavier stuff. But the effect stuff for me is the greatest, man. Truly, like there's some hip shit. And they keep every year there's some new shit. It's like, what? Whoa, that's cool.
Yeah.
You know.
Thank you, Meinl.
Thank you, Meinl. What about the trip? Wasn't that fun?
Oh, that was fun.
That was great fun, man.
We should do it again.
Oh, I'd love to.
It's been 10 years.
It has been 10 years.
So
Well, 2014 is when we went.
Oh.
I know because Norbert signed a splash for me and I still have that. It's like framed.
So maybe the 12th year we should do it.
Maybe. I would love. It was insane. What a trip. Like, it was a dream for anyone, man, that plays drums.
Yeah.
Germany was beautiful. My first time.
Yeah.
Stunning place. The food was great.
Food is great.
We spent, 3 days? Not more than 3 days. And literally, like, we got to see how they make all their cymbals.
And the room where we tried out everything.
Yeah.
And we were wheeling that cart outside.
Oh, what a feeling, man.
But you know, that was the old place. Now
they've moved, huh?
They made a newer place,
Yeah.
so we should check it out.
We should.
So now cymbals, drums,
Yeah.
sticks.
I guess I started with Zildjian sticks because that's all that was available here at the time. Maybe some Vic Firths would sneak in somehow.
Weren't you playing Vater?
I was
quite a
playing
bit?
Vater for a bit.
But did you pick that up when you went to the States first?
No, I think I was playing Pro Marks then when I was in the States.
Oh.
Because I remember one day they had some sort of a sale going on, and it was literally like pick up whatever you want and then pay for it types. They had everything laid out. It was quite cool in that P100.
Oh, okay.
And I just happened to pick up a brick of Neil Peart. Is it Peart or Peart?
Peart.
Neil Peart drumsticks, like a brick, and I used those for a while. And one of my teachers there, Donnie Grunler, he was playing Extreme 5Bs, Vic Firth. I think that's when and because we were playing with technique with marching sticks, so I moved to a bigger stick at the time. And I played those, and I finally settled on the Vic Firth. I did play Vater Fusions, which was like a ball tip, but I would destroy my heads with those. Just like dents everywhere.
Yeah.
But I did eventually settle on the Vic Firth 55As, which are kind of in between 5As and 5Bs.
Yeah.
And I've been playing those for like the last 15 years.
So when you signed with Vic Firth?
2012, I think, yeah. I wrote to them and was like, guys, I'm a huge fan of Vic Firth, and could you help me?
You know, directly
gain-
to the company?
I did, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I sent them my bio, and they were kind enough to be like, sure, we'd love to support you.
That's very cool.
That is cool.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I told you that.
I've never forgotten.
Maybe it slipped your mind.
Maybe it slipped.
Cheers, by the way.
Cheers.
Brewskis. What about people that drink hot beverages like this?
I
And
don't
then
like
they go. What about that?
I'm okay with that at
Yeah?
the end. But not the...
What does that do? Does that cool it down while it comes
I think
in?
it does, huh?
You think? Let's talk about Drumheads.
Drumheads.
While we're still talking about gear, I'm sorry. There was no Evans back in the day. It was only Remo.
This is now pre-2004 you're talking
That's what I'm
about.
talking about. That's what I'm talking about. It was only Remo, and it was only Remo pinstripe. If I remember. That was
Right.
all that you would get,
And
like a pack.
Encores.
Yeah. But Evans came in around 2008, 9?
No, much before. 2004, 2005.
Maybe,
I remember
okay.
walking into a Fatado's.
Yeah.
Well, could be 2004, 2005.
Yeah.
Because I remember walking into a
And then
Fatado's.
the rack. I remember the
and
rack of...
the first time I saw such a large collection of drumheads in one place.
Yeah. True. And I played the hydraulics for a long time. Actually, you're right. It was before I left, because I remember recording with hydraulics.
Because in my
Yeah, it must be
Swing
4
Star, I
5.
had the blue hydraulics.
Correct. Yeah, it was 4 5, around 2004 5. And I've played them since then. I've never played anything else.
Right.
I've tried, everything you tried on a gig, right? When it's not your kit. Like, I do play a lot of backline drums. So I have tried everything out there, I think, Aquarian, Remo, but I still find Evans is, for the way I play, like, it just feels natural, man, to me. Like, there's no, like, weird overtones.
Yeah.
And, like, now, especially with those UV heads, they've done some pretty cool stuff.
And the heads are very important to the sound of the drums.
Yeah, and especially the bottom head.
Yeah.
Having a good resonant head is so important, and the way they tune also, like, you just I watch a lot of these, like, drum tech POV things. So this one guy, like, he was pulling out a Remo, and it just doesn't sit right, and even he was talking about it, and he's obviously working for a Remo artist.
Yeah.
I mean, not to, each to his own, I guess, but I'm just saying, like, I know every time I've pulled out, I've never had a bad head, like a head that doesn't sit right on the kit.
It's the level 360
Correct.
technology that just, you can spin it, once you put it on the bearing edge.
And they breathe better. There's a big difference in sound. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
It's very different.
And I think if you play a particular piece of gear for a long time, you get used to it. It becomes part of your sound, your touch and everything.
Exactly.
So it changes when you're playing something else, It's not like it may not be bad, but it's just what you're not used to.
Correct.
And you'll kind of give the best when you're comfortable with what you're playing.
Yeah. Definitely.
So your current rig setup is with Pearl reference drums?
Yep.
How many snare drums do you have?
About 9 or 10, I'd say.
Okay.
Over the years. These are, like, collected over the years.
What's the importance of having so many snare drums?
They're just different colors. Honestly, like, when I do a lot of recording work, I would go with, like, at least 4. At least a wood snare, some sort of a brass or a metal shell, or different depths. They all sound different. They all record different. They all... and the snare drum's actually a very important part to kind of the...
It's kind of the heart of the drum
yeah,
sound,
that's what I'm... Yeah, that's... Hey, man. Hey. You just stole the words out of my head.
Out of your heart?
Exactly. It is, heart and head, But basically, yeah, you're right. It is the soul of a song in many ways. It's just like two princes, right?
Oh my God, yes.
The snare drum that you took the other day from the studio,
Yes.
that sounded exactly like the Two Princes snare.
I didn't take it.
Oh, you didn't take it?
Inderpal?
Oh yeah, that's right. You didn't take it.
Yes.
Anyway, I was in. Anyway, we'll get to that. But that's what I'm saying. Like, it is the heart and the soul of a song is a snare drum. So it's important to have different snare drums. I've collected a fair amount of snares over the years. Many different pearl snares. One of my favorite is the old Dennis snare that I have. I've done so much. Like all of Indus, the Indus stuff was on that. A lot of Blackstrat's recording work was on that.
Interesting one. That's like a thin maple shell, huh?
Yeah. But that's the thing. It is thinner than a reference, but it's still got like tons of crack. It is interesting.
And that pearl reference brass.
Pearl reference brass, 14 by 6.5. It's got that 3mm brass shell. I have a couple of Dunnet snare drums that I really, really enjoy playing as well. And you just kind of collect them because they're fun.
Yeah.
And, I don't know about in this economy though.
Right. And it'll affect your playing. I mean, as soon as you switch up a snare drum, you kind of just
100%.
feel kind of also nice because there's something fresh and new and different.
Like it sounds different. The way it feels different. You'll play different. Same thing when you switch like the size of your hat, so the size of your ride. Like That's
so do you think these three things are most important? Snare, hat, ride.
Yeah.
And then it'll change the whole way
100%.
you play, and the kit will sound different.
100%.
Right.
Like even if you're playing like a ride cymbal, like the way it's kind of rebounding, you'd play differently. Hats you dig in differently if they're 13s or 16s.
Right.
Which both are amazing. That's the beauty of this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you want to switch it up, you just go from a 13-inch hi-hat to a 16-inch hi-hat, and it's
that's a big change.
It is a big jump, yeah, but it's an entirely different world, and you'll just hear something different, and then you'll stick with it, and then that can become something musical, which is like I've always geeked out on this stuff. Both of us have, I guess.
Yeah.
Where if I was playing with Blackstrat, I'd play like 16-inch hats. Or when I was playing with Pangea, I'd play like 14-inch hats because I needed that quickness, And with Blackstrat, I need that chunky, like playing with the shoulder.
So what do you use with Blackstrat?
For the longest time, I used the 16-inch extra dry, medium thin Byzance hi-hats. For the longest time, in fact, all the recording stuff is probably that. But very recently, I got the 15-inch pure alloy custom hammered hats, 15-inch. Great. The ones that you played the other day.
Did you use that on the recent session?
On everything, pretty much.
You guys will new music.
Yep, you'll hear them soon, hopefully. But with it's weird. With Blackstrat, I need like thickness, but it's got to be like quick at the same time.
Nice.
If that makes sense.
Okay.
I need chunky, like chuck, that vibe, but it's got to be like, it's got to sound good, like cut through his distortion as well.
Right. So you got that little top end cut from the pure alloy.
Yeah, but the extra rise were just special, very special cymbals, man. Yeah. They just sounded great.
Yeah.
Even with the rides, like I'd use like some of the vintage pure light rides that are so easy and buttery to play. Like when you're playing them and you're digging into them, like I don't play like jazz and swing and stuff, but again, you play that cymbal, I'd lean into that side of my playing a little bit more than.
And you emulate what that sound is
exactly. Giving you. Yeah, exactly. That was cool.
Yeah, so it's Pearl, it's Meinl, it's Evans, it's Vic Firth. Anything else what you're currently working? You just finished the Blackstrat sessions.
Yeah, I just recorded a bunch of songs for Blackstrat. I'm looking to start something new on the side, I am busy playing commercial gigs and Bollywood shows. That kind of keeps me busy. But I'd love to write with someone if they're interested.
Yeah, ask them.
Would you like to write some music with me? But yeah, I don't know what kind of stylistically, I don't know what.
But you're open to kind of creating something.
I have also recently moved to Goa.
Yes.
As you know. I'm looking to set up a space there where I can write and primarily play drums first. I need like a great sounding room and to record drums and to teach out of there as well.
Yeah.
I'd love to do that. A lot of people have been writing to me, but I was like, sorry, I don't have a space right now.
Right.
Or I'm busy on the road or whatever. but I'd love to get that going. And I just want to get back to like playing for the sake of playing.
Stuff that you really want to play.
Yeah, and have no agenda apart from just being in a room and playing. Like I don't. It's not like, hey man, I want to like tour. Like, you know, I want, these are 10 cities I want to hit. I just want to play in a room and have fun with people that I get along with.
Right. So
something like that.
If you're watching, and put your name in the comments or get in touch with Jay if you got something he might be interested in. And if you're in Goa and you want to learn drums, get in touch with Jai Row Kavi. If you know a place in Goa where he can set up.
I do house calls. If you have drums in your house, I'll come. Right now I don't have drums in mine, so well, I've got my kick, I've got the Meinl the silent cymbals, and I've got like mesh heads, kick, snare, hat, ride. That's what I've got just to keep, you know, something going. But after a point, it's like, dude, I want to hit a drum, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't feel the same.
Yeah.
Same with electronic drums. That's how I feel. You know, it's great. It's a great option. At least electronic drums you can kind of hear.
Yeah.
But with this, it's just like,
Right.
that's what it feels like.
So I think we should play some drums.
I think we
soon,
should.
So you can.
It's raining outside. Today is the last Visarjan day.
Yes.
I think it's a free for all.
We can
do
play as
whatever
loud as we want. That's true.
Yeah.
What's your favorite kind of food?
Depends on my mood, I guess. But I'm not a very picky eater. There's some things I dislike, like celery. I think
Right.
I hate celery.
It's good for you.
Well, so is cocaine.
It's not good for you.
I know, that's true.
Celery and cocaine.
No, wait.
CC.
CNC drums, remember those?
Yeah.
Good drums. I like Asian food a lot.
Yes.
I know I don't know if that's, well, Thai food.
Yes.
Food from China.
Yes.
Food from Italy.
Yes. Japanese food.
Love Japanese food.
Korean food.
I love me a good burger.
Yes.
Hamburger, like the French say.
Yes.
I love great Indian food as well. Now, when you say Indian food, depends what Indian food. Love all of it. I
like
genuinely love
great
food.
South Indian food.
Man, I would smash a dosa.
Seafood.
Love seafood.
Yeah.
I'm a coastal person.
There you
born
go.
and raised.
Oh, you have great seafood in your house.
That is true.
A good
all
butter chicken.
Dude, kebabs.
Yeah.
That's like Indian food, man. It's
Killer.
wild also,
Yeah.
dude. Like, that's so different also, right? Like food from the south and food from the north, food from the northeast.
Yes.
I can't handle like that hectic spice a lot.
Mm-hmm.
As I get older,
Yeah. Really.
if it hurts going in, it'll hurt coming out.
Okay.
There's a theory to that. Apparently,
true.
there's something with the nerves.
Really?
I don't know. You can
So
look it
have
up.
some celery then.
No, man. Another
It
thing I
won't
don't
hurt
like.
going in.
You know what my most hated thing is? I don't like tomato soup.
I like tomatoes.
soup.
I like raw tomatoes. I like
I don't mind.
You know how I like raw onions?
Yeah, oof, that's bizarre.
I like raw tomatoes, but I don't like cooked tomatoes.
I like cooked tomatoes.
But
Is it tomato or tomato?
both.
Both? Potato or potato?
But I like tomato soup.
No, so I hate a Bloody Mary because it's got tomato,
Yeah.
whatever. Tabasco, I don't like Tabasco.
You don't-
and celery.
You don't like Tabasco?
No, man. It's pepper, man. It's too much
But pepper with like little ketchup with fries, you don't like that?
Nah. I'd also flip out like,
How you don't like Tabasco? I thought you
If-
had Tabasco.
no, I hate Tabasco. But like ketchup and fries, of course. What
Out
about
of
like
everything I heard today, this is the
shocking?
shocking
I
thing.
hate Tabasco. I won't touch it. I don't know what it is. I love hot sauce though.
Yeah.
Again, the threshold is like
Yeah.
I can't do that ghost pepper boot
No, no,
jalokia
no,
scene.
no.
Dude, I had an episode recently where I ate some of that and I had to pay the price, let's just say.
Okay. Wow.
TMI.
We spoke about a lot, and the Tabasco thing. The Tabasco thing shocked me.
I don't like
Tabasco.
Tabasco.
The bar's cold.
What about Worcestershire sauce?
That's good with steak.
Yeah, that's good.
Thing is, it's a blend.
Condiments. Yeah.
I like that little ketchup, little Tabasco, so you get the little kick, and then
Yeah.
if you're having
I'm also-
steak, then Worcester sauce.
Yeah,
sauce-
everything's
sauce.
got a like mustard and got to love a good
Yes.
an English mustard.
Yes.
You know, appreciate that.
Dijon.
In Dijon, also very good. How you say, Yeah, condiments are fun. That's a good fun about like Thai food, man. Everything's got like a condiment. What's your favorite restaurant ever? I know what mine is. Ever. Like,
I know what yours is.
Yeah, you know. Everyone knows. All of my friends know this.
Link's Pavilion.
That is true.
It's one of my favorite restaurants too. But I have to give it up for all China for me.
Fair. Yeah.
It's fair. But right. So Indian food is a big thing.
Definitely.
Italian food because of the pizza and pastas.
Yeah.
And Southeast Asian food. I think
Yeah.
this is like the best foods in the world. Honestly.
I would think so.
Yeah.
And I love like, I have a lot of friends in the food, like
Yes.
close friends of mine, Karthik and Agrani. They run this bar called Grumps in Goa, and
Fantastic.
they know a lot about food. So they're always like, prodding me on to try stuff. And another thing I don't like is pesto. I don't like pesto. I don't mind basil. I don't mind. I don't know, something about pesto.
I
Like,
think in 10 years you'll like pesto.
You think so?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Remember, I didn't used to eat as much vegetables as I do now.
Exactly. This is why I'm saying 10 years you'll like pesto.
Yep. Hey, man. Let's see. We'll
Yeah.
come back 10 years in,
Yeah.
and
It depends how it's made. Pesto can go wrong very easily.
I don't know. There's something about like
It's green because it's green?
No, I love broccoli.
Yeah, okay.
I love broccoli. I love all green vegetables. Most green vegetable things.
You eat salads?
Yep. Now I do, dude. I'm now 39. I can't fuck around. Like, I realized this, like, so I've been like trying to exercise a lot more, eat better, because I want to eat what I want to eat.
That's true.
You
So
know,
you
I don't want to get to a point where like,
हाँ आज मैं नहीं खा सकता क्योंकि
Yeah.
मुझे आज शुगर है तो जरा वो थोड़ा है
right.
we're like, oh, burger, yeah, sure, but then 5 days
Yeah.
later, as in for the next 5 days, I'll eat very clean
And you're
whatever.
playing also, it'll help you playing.
Yeah, and generally I feel a lot better since I started exercising.
That's good.
And just walking every day, going to the gym. I have a trainer because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing
Right.
otherwise. And with my back injury and whatnot, I have a really cool trainer who's also a big guy, so he knows what I'm going. That's
okay.
important, I think. Like
Somebody who knows what you're
yeah, he
feeling.
was like a big guy. He's like now a lot thinner. Joel, good guy,
nice.
young guy. So that and we love food, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sometimes envious of people who don't give a fuck about food. They'll just eat just to survive. Because
Well, that's no fun, no?
that is no fun, but they don't know any better.
Mm-hmm. What are the ones who eat a lot and don't put on any weight?
Them. Them. That's not fair, dude. Like, what kind of metabolism is that? That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, Muji was having like strawberry milkshake in the morning because
What?
he can.
That's insane. Wow, man. And he never puts on weight.
Yeah, he doesn't put on weight.
Lucky man. Lucky man.
Fantastic. So, Jai, thank you.
Thank you, man. This was a lot of fun. And
Anything you want to say? Anything you want to plug that you're up to?
well, I'm just happy I'm here and we're hanging out. I get to see you now that I've moved to Goa. I don't see you as often.
That's
I don't
true.
come here as often. So it's nice to be here, and we'll play some drums and
Yes.
do what we do. Our favorite things is drums and food and
Yeah,
talking shit.
that's good.
But thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And if you are serious about learning drums, get in touch with this guy. He is by far, in my opinion, someone that knows more about drums than anyone I've met over the years. And
Aw.
yeah, it's true, man. You really go out of your way to
And because we love it so much.
yeah, but you really know your shit. Like, you really, really know your shit. And it's your knowledge is like vast. It's not just like, oh, you want to study only this one thing. You really have spent so much time studying everything. And that's something I think I got from you,
Yeah.
is because like it was never like, oh, we are only like jazz drummers or we are only rock drummers. Like, we've been fascinated with swing as
Yeah.
much as we've been fascinated with Meshuggah or something.
Right. But like, I mean, guys like Vinny Kaluta, or even watching like Modern
Yeah.
Drummer Festival, seeing everybody.
Exactly, man.
Everything was exciting. So you
Yeah.
wanted to do everything. no?
Exactly, yeah. There was never like there was no boundaries, that's why I'm like, you are someone that knows the ins and outs of swing, of playing double bass, of technique. So get in touch with him, man.
Yeah.
And if you want some Kida stuff, get in touch with me.
And you get to go to Goa.
That's the plan.
Yeah. Watch out for this space.
Yeah, it'll be fun. You should come.
Goa
Obviously
Drum
you
Camp
come.
with Jai Row Kavi.
Yeah, that's the plan. The idea is we'll do like, if someone wants to I can do like 3 to 5 days private lessons with someone and work on stuff that they want to do. And slowly, like there's no like, that's the idea.
Yeah. You should do it.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Okay. Cheers.
Thank you, Brewskis.
Thank you.
And keep playing drums, man.
Thank you. See you soon.